I'm Charlotte Owen, Editor-in-Chief of Bustle, and you're watching One Nightstand, presented by Gail Daughtry and the Celebrity Sex Pass. Great. Well, John Leguizamo, welcome to One Nightstand.
Oh, thank you for having me.
We're thrilled to have you here.
Yeah, I'm thrilled.
We're going to talk about some great books, but have you always been a big reader?
I have always been a big reader, but my reading tastes have changed a lot always.
Oh, interesting.
Like when I was a little guy, I was kind of ADHD, so I couldn't really read long form, but I could read a ton of short form, like encyclopedias and all kinds of informative books. I can do that because, I could just like devour and then stop.
Interesting. So when did you get into fiction?
I think fiction really hit me when I was in a little older, like when 10 or 11. I started to love like stories, Grimm's fairy tales, all that stuff. And then when I was 19, 17, I started reading plays. Just plays. I devoured everything. William Minge, Tennessee Williams, Arthur Kopit, you name it. I just devoured every play that ever existed and found that format like the most powerful format for
That's
me.
interesting.
Yeah.
Did you ever listen to books, or do you always read them?
I always read them.
Yeah.
I'm going to try listening. I've tried it. Like I was going on a big road trip, and I got all these books on tape. And what happened was, like, I'm driving. Oh, this is incredible.
Yeah.
Oh my God. No, it puts me to sleep instantly. No matter where I'm at. Like I'll try it in the green room. I'll try it in the dressing room. I'll be out in 5 seconds.
Interesting. Where'd you go on your road trip?
At that time, I think I was going to Boston to do What's the Worst That Could Happen, which was the movie.
Nice.
The worst thing that could happen was that movie. The title was very appropriate for that movie.
Well, you've also brought some of your books here, which is really exciting because you're an author yourself. And so we have your incredible first ever
my
children's
first
book.
ever children's book, Kiki and the Can.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Yes, well, this was very hard to arrive at. It took me 5 years. I thought it'd be the easiest thing to write. I mean, 20 pages? Come on, I can't write 20 pages. Yeah, it was really rough. It was like 4 different trial and error, and then I wanted to get all this information. So it's about a little kid who goes to the park to hang out with his friends, like I used to when I was a kid, and all his friends are bragging about their heroes, and he doesn't have any heroes. So he runs home all sad, and his mom tells him, "Look, what are you talking about? We have tons of Latin heroes." And so he starts reading the mom's books, and he goes back to his friends. Then he spray paints all his heroes back into history.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so tell me about the 5 years. Was that right? Was it the writing or coming up with the narrative that was?
It was the writing. It was coming up with the narrative.
Yeah, all of it.
It was like, you name it, that's what it took. It might be my first and last children's book. No, I'm kidding. But it was rough. But I'm really proud of it. I did it with my friend John Crash Matos. I'm not sure if he's here somewhere, but we went to school together. He's one of the great graffiti artists of the world. Like he's in museums.
Yeah.
He's the first to take graffiti and put it on canvas.
Oh wow.
And so he's we use his art.
Very cool. What do your children think of it?
They haven't read it yet.
Oh, that's the feedback you really need.
Yeah. I'm waiting.
Whose feedback are you always most nervous to get with a project, or are you not? Are you pretty like?
You mean for it's different for every project. Obviously I go to people who are project specific. Like for films I go to all my director friends. For scripts, if it's a play, then more writers.
Yeah.
And for this, it was the editor. Andrea Pickney was incredibly helpful to me. I mean, she was really instrumental in making this happen.
Oh, I love that. Well, very exciting. Well, we have some great books to talk about. I thought we could start about Open Veins of Latin America.
Oh my God, Eduardo Galeano.
Yeah, tell me about your love of this book.
Oh my God, that book really changed me, and I recommend it to everybody, but obviously for Latin people to understand where we came from and why we are where we are. That he traveled all over Latin America, and that's where he came with this point of view of what happened. So he gives you a perspective of our empires before the conquest, and then obviously the ruination of Latin culture. I mean, in that time it was indigenous culture, and because the cultural annihilation that happened to Latin people is the worst in the history of the world, and then the theft of all our wealth and gold, and our gold funded the the second half of the Renaissance, the Enlightenment period, and the silver-funded Asia. And so it was like 500,000 tons of gold that was taken from us. But then it talks about all the oppression, all our history, our contributions, scientists. It's a powerful read. It'll change you. It'll change the way your mind is wired.
Yeah, and the way it's written is so powerful. And he really, I mean, I think later.
Wait, you read it?
Oh yeah, I read as much of it as I could get through in the
'cause
weekend.
it's dense.
But it's dense. No, I listened to a lot of it as well, and it's it's passionate.
Yes.
And yeah, he
I mean,
later.
the foreword by Isabella Allende.
Yes.
I was like, she says, you got to read it like 5 times. I'm like, oh, she's a slow reader.
Yeah.
Then when I started reading, I was like, whoa, wait a
Yeah.
minute. I got to read each chapter like 3 or 4 times because it's so dense. He really compresses all that information because it's really not that long. I mean, this is thousands of years of history.
Yeah, and all the different, like whether it's the Brits or the Spanish, all these different cultures coming in and extracting these resources.
That was really important for me because you wonder, like, here we are, Latin people, 500 years after the conquest, and where are we?
Yeah.
Why aren't we further up in the food chain? And then you start to understand all the practices and oppression that goes into keeping people down. And yeah, so that's it makes you angry. You go through the 5 stages of grief with this book. You get rage, you get depressed, you start to feel overlooked, and then eventually you come to terms with it.
How old were you when you first read it?
How
old were you?
I was older. It was like 15 years ago.
Oh,
so
wow.
yeah, I was 50.
Wow.
Yeah.
And was it when you were working on Latin history?
Yes. I started doing a lot of research to empower my son, but I was the one that was getting empowered. I was like, wait a minute, how did they keep all this information from us?
That's crazy. And how do you, I mean, I know that when you, it's called, in the UK it's got a different name, but on Finding Your Roots, you did a lot about your own personal history. How did you, because I think when I was watching parts of the episode, I think you had some ancestors from lots of different types of parts. Did it feel different knowing that and then reading the book?
Oh, wow. I mean, it first of all, it was shocking to me being on Finding Your Roots. I didn't even want to go on.
I really?
Because I was like, I only know my grandparents.
Yeah.
I know I had great grandparents. I know it, but I didn't know there was a lot of history. I just didn't understand it all. And then when I get there and I find out that I'm the only person on the show who they can trace my roots 500 years back in the Americas on both sides. So that means, I had conquistadors and indigenous people and African slaves as well in the whole lineage. So it was really powerful to me. I mean, obviously, I did the gratuitous crying. I wept. I said to myself, I'm not going to cry. This is ridiculous. And then he told me about, my 12th grandfather who was indigenous and was written about as the noble Indian.
I saw
that.
Yeah.
That made me weep.
Yeah, it is incredible. I would love to know all that stuff. I mean, my family.
Oh, you want to go on the show?
Well, they won't have me on the show, but I've tried to do the ancestry.com stuff. But well, my family just seems to have barely moved in about 400 years. So England and Wales. My mom's Welsh, my dad's English, but they're barely in the same 100, the least adventurous people ever, the biggest bunch of losers. I was like, I thought there'd be something interesting, but
that's hilarious.
Yeah, I don't know. What can you do? It was interesting. So when Galeano, I think in 2014, he reflected that he regretted parts of
I know,
which I thought was crazy.
The hell? Who writes regretted? What was it? Because I got so upset about hearing about it. I didn't want to research it because I was like, okay.
I think he felt that some of it was, I don't want to use the word emotional, but too polemical, I think, in tone. But it's how can it not be?
I like that about it.
Exactly.
I like that it had emotion, because if it was just bare facts, it would be difficult. It'd be like a textbook.
Totally, and there's soul in it.
There's soul in it, and there's pain, and there's remorse. There's all kinds of feelings in that book that you start to feel as well.
Totally. Are you the type of person who goes back and reflects on your work like that? Do you ever look back at work from 30 years ago and think, oh God, I wish I'd done that differently?
I'm a very regretful kind of guy.
Are you? Interesting.
I regret everything. So, I mean, I do. I mean, do I regret some movies that I did? Yeah. Do I regret some movies that I turned down? Yeah, of course. I made mistakes. I think that's what I love about, if I could talk about the Odyssey. The movie. I thought the Odyssey, that's what broke me. I don't usually cry movies, and my wife never does, but we were both weeping hard at this movie
Really?
because the summation of the movie at the end, when he's looking back at his life and he sees all the mistakes he made and how fallible we all are, and how, you know, we're human. We're going to make mistakes no matter how important you are, how big you are, how captain of a ship. You're going to make big mistakes and you're going to regret it. And I think that's the healthier attitude, I think. Understanding your mistakes and seeing them and accepting them. I think that takes you to a better place in old age and makes wiser people, as opposed to people who are in total denial and narcissistic. And
you have to accept it.
I think so. I think that makes you the wiser, better leader.
Can I ask what movies you turned down, or do you not want to share?
Oh no, I turned down a lot of Mr. and Mrs. Smith. That was really stupid. Happy Feet, the Robin Williams part. Yeah. Rest in peace. I love him. Those are too big. There were a lot other. There were a lot more on that list. That I was just, I thought, I'm not sure what I was thinking. I was always thinking something like, I don't need to do that. That's not for me. Yeah. Oh, I'm better than that. And then you go back, no, I wasn't better than that. I want that movie now.
But that's life, isn't it? You never, hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah, absolutely, right, yeah.
Tell me about your character in the Odyssey, because it's been called, you said it's the most loyal character in Western literature.
Well, that's what Chris Nolan told me, how he sold it to me.
Really interesting.
No, we went to dinner and at the Odeon, is a big Hollywood spot back in the day. And he said, this is, Eumaeus is the most loyal character in Western literature. And I was like, oh yeah, that sounds like it's right up my alley. Yeah, so it was a lot to live up to, being the sort of, I'm the caretaker of all of Odysseus's land. I teach his son. I protect his dog, and I protect his name.
Yeah. That's amazing. And so you're working a lot with Tom Holland, I'm guessing, and
Tom Holland and Matt Damon are the people I'm most with, and then a little run-in with Polybus and Antinous, which is Corey Hawkins and Robert Pattinson.
Wow. And how long was the shoot?
Oh, the shoot was long, not for me, but for Matt, and for I think Matt is mostly Matt.
Yeah.
6 months, traveling 7 countries around the world. Iceland, Morocco, Greece, Sicily, Scotland, and LA finally.
Wow, where did
exotic
you
shoot? LA.
Where did you shoot your bits in?
I was in Morocco, Sicily, in Favignana, like I guess near where the Odyssey takes place, and LA.
Nice. And did Christopher Nolan do the classic red scripts printed out?
Yes.
So who brought you your script?
You get it after you sign the contract. You don't get it before.
Yeah.
You don't get to decide, And you get it, and you have to be home, and you have to sign for it, and it has to be you. Your assistant can't pick it up, and then it's in that red.
Really?
It's in this red color with shiny black ink, so you can only read it at noon. On top of you have to be in the right sunlight. Otherwise, you can't read it because it glares.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
That's amazing.
It's brilliant. It's a brilliant script. I don't know if he gets enough credit for being a brilliant writer, but he's phenomenal. This is incredibly genius.
Wow.
How you can reduce, compress 800 pages, 19,000 lines? I can't remember exactly the amount of lines. And make it make sense and make it cohesive and make it relevant. It's powerful.
What was the most surprising? You've worked with some incredible directors in your time.
Yes, I have.
You really have. How does Christopher Nolan compare? What's singular about him or different?
Well, some of the people I've worked with have been visionaries, like Baz Luhrmann, Spike Lee, Brian De Palma taught me everything. But this guy is a visionary, like a real, true visionary. To take this classic story and make it come to life is not an easy task. It's may be one of the hardest tasks in the world. And we need more original content. I guess this has an IP, but not your typical IP. He's just, you're shooting in 70 millimeter, which is kind of daunting. It's never been done before for obvious reasons, because it's really difficult, because you can't really move the camera around as easily because it weighs hundreds of pounds. The mag runs 3 minutes. So I had some scenes that I had 10-minute monologue, so it has to get chopped up, and you have to keep revving yourself up because it has to be chopped up now into 3 or 4 parts.
Wow.
And it takes 5 minutes to reload it, and he had the fastest reloader in the world, because the film is like this big, and it's loud. It's like a lawnmower. It's like, and so, you know, he's like, "Don't yell, John," and I'm like, I can't help it. I can't even hear myself. And then he invented this thing called the blimp. And so now when we're in intimate scenes, he put it over it, and then it sounds like a cat purr. It's like,
wow.
yeah, it's incredible. But you can't use it all the time, because
Yeah.
I think I'm not sure what it does to the look of the film.
How interesting.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was a really singular experience shooting.
It was wild. It was incredible. I mean, you know, I am nearsighted, not nearsighted. I'm visually impaired. I was trying to think of the appropriate way of saying it. I'm visually impaired. So, you know, I studied as hard as I could. I have a friend from high school, Gina Velasquez, who's sight impaired, and I spent time with her, studied her behavior, and then, you know, I walked around the house with the lights off, trying to see what it does to your body. And then I'm an older person, so I was trying to also create the age, because I'm ancient. I hope you don't think that's the way I normally look.
Yeah, was that a lot of prosthetic or like,
Yeah.
Gosh,
Yeah,
how long were you in?
Luisa Elba is one of the best in the world, and the first day was like 4 or 5 hours, and the hair took like 2 days to get it done to that whiteness.
Yeah.
Bleached the hell out of it, burned my scalp. It was incredible.
Gosh.
But it looks
Wow.
great. It was worth it, you know.
It does look incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you sort of look unrecognizable, really.
That's a polite word for what you were trying to say. Yeah, unrecognizable. Yeah.
Well, I thought next we could talk about Long Day's Journey into Night.
Oh my God.
What, I mean,
One of the most
incredible.
powerful pieces of theater, literature.
Yeah.
I mean, Ibsen is, I think, the master for everybody. Even James Joyce said that Ibsen was one of the great writers, because he made things psychological, personal, and nobody was writing like that, really, you know? And then I think Eugene O'Neill took it to the next step with this first autobiographical piece about his family and his mother, who was a junkie. You know, he didn't want it published. He didn't want it to be put on stage. 25 years after, and the wife, as soon as he was gone, like 5 minutes later, before the body's cold, she's already like,
She's like, get it out there.
Get it out there. Call the publisher. Hey, we could sell it. But I'm glad, because it's such a powerful piece. I think it influenced me completely my whole life. You know, I don't think I would have written what I wrote, Freak, and without Long Day's Journey into Night.
Yeah. How old were you when you first read it?
I was 18.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, that must have been moving. And
So moving.
And have you seen any of the big Broadway productions of it?
Yes. I saw the one with Philip Seymour Hoffman, where you got a
yes.
standing ovation for Jamie. I've never, for that monologue, that's crazy, in the middle of the performance. And my wife, you know, who doesn't like long plays, and, you know, it's 4 hours, 2 intermissions.
Is it?
Yeah,
Oh,
she was
gosh.
like, I could have sat there for another 8 hours. I was like, wow, that's impressive.
Yeah.
But
That's
she had never read
incredible.
it. She didn't know anything about it.
I read it this weekend and also listened to a BBC like radio play version of it, and even on the radio you could really, without the visuals, it was incredibly moving.
So moving. I gotta say that the Sidney Lumet version that was filmed with, I thought Katharine Hepburn was the best Mary I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Ever.
I think he writes so tenderly about the addiction, because you feel the pain of everyone around him, but also they're sort of like, oh, we know it's not her fault because she was given it. Do you know what I mean?
Right, when he gives you the backstory of she
Yeah.
was pregnant and it was too tough on her, and they gave you laudanum back then, and you know, she happened to get addicted. But he also tackles the fathers too, the father's cheapness, the father's thinking he's the biggest actor in America, and he still lives with this grandiosity that he can't drop at home. You know, he still has to be like on stage all the time.
That's one of the first things I wrote down, is it really felt to me like a play about fatherhood, and like about, in many ways. And I wondered, I mean, you have 2 children, and how did you decide what kind of father you wanted to be?
Wow, that's a big switcheroo.
Sorry.
No, okay. Well, obviously you don't want to be a bad father.
No, of course. I know, but it's sort of like when it's sort of such a, no one, I don't know, it's just a hard thing.
No, but it is, but you're right. You do make a conscious decision. I mean, I'm in show business, and you see what goes on, and you try to analyze that. I think a lot of the problems are an absence, you know, of the parents being around and the lifestyle, letting the lifestyle overtake your parenting. And so, we had a lot of, I'm a person who loves experts. So, I've been in therapy all my life. And so we did parenting therapy.
Oh, wow.
And then, school was really smart because, I saw all my other friends take their kids out and travel with them. And the school said, no, you're giving the kids the wrong message. You're telling them that school is not important by pulling them out. And you're giving them the wrong message. Consistency is more important. So then my kids stopped traveling with me. So then I had to make, rules with my wife and myself that, no more than 2 weeks apart.
Wow.
I started turning down movies because I had to be home, because you can't replace being home.
No.
And I don't regret it because I was home and I got to play sports with them. I got to impart my philosophies.
Yeah.
Because if you're not there, who's going to impart them?
Totally. I watched in one of your interviews when you were talking about Moulin Rouge that it was an 8-month shoot. And
Yes.
I think you had a baby just before that, right? And
we had a baby like a few weeks before I got into, and then my wife, being the trooper that she is, she's an amazing woman, by the way. I mean, I'm everything because of her. And she came with the baby and my mom, and they came to Australia, Sydney, and when my child was only like 3 or 4 weeks old.
oh my gosh. And so they were there with you the whole time?
Yeah.
And must have been a long shoot as well. Like,
Oh, that was really long.
Yeah.
It was incredibly long. That was the longest shoot of my life.
really?
Yeah, 8 months. Yeah, that's a long time.
And but was it fun, or did it start fun and then get harder, I guess?
You know that old joke, that old saying, how do you make an actor miserable?
Yeah.
You give him a job. And so that's what starts to happen after a while. You know, I was in Moulin Rouge, and I love Baz. He's a genius, and the crew. I mean, the cast was incredible. We had a whole month rehearsal before we shot, which is amazing. And I'm used to theater, so I'm used to a lot of rehearsal. But on film, that's unheard of.
Yeah.
A month, and we had to do singing classes, dance classes, accent, because I had to do like a British accent for everything, period.
You had your Jeremy Irons, didn't you? You're listening to Brideshead.
Listening to Brideshead, trying to do the accents, I can get it perfectly. It's been a while since I've done it, but sometimes it comes back quickly.
You've still got it.
But it's interesting because in the Odyssey, we're using American.
Oh, interesting.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, I love your accent as well. It's
fine.
beautiful. But I like hearing period pieces in an American accent. I mean, British people, I guess, obviously were the best because they did the most period stuff.
Yeah.
But it gets complicated sometimes when you're doing ancient Greeks or Romans and they're speaking in British accents. It just takes you out for a second.
Totally like Brad Pitt and Troy. When I rewatched it recently, and I was like, is he speaking with a British accent?
Yeah. Because that was the standard for period stuff, but it's not really authentic. So I like this innovative attempt at doing it in American.
Yeah.
And how beautifully inclusive this version is. It's everybody's seen, everybody's a part of it. It's such an large tent.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So obviously Eugene O'Neill didn't allow the play, like you said, to come out until after his death, and I, a lot of the plays and one-man shows you've written have had semi or like autobiographical elements. And when I was reading, I think earlier you used sort of like pseudonyms, and then later on you started using real names. What was the reaction to that amongst your like family and friends?
I mean, when I started doing biographical stuff, I was an angry young man, and so I didn't care. But, then my mom, finally in Spikorama, she said, that woman is so funny. She's so crazy. And I was like, well, that's you, Mom. She goes, what do you mean? That's not me. She didn't see herself. And then, she was like, came to see the play like 1,000 times. And then she was like, oh, I'm so sorry for everything we did. But freak, I was still an angry young man, even though I was a lot older. I was 38 or 37. And it was a takedown on some of the parenting and my father, and that so I used mock-up names because my dad did try to sue me, and
really?
So I didn't want to be sued.
No, fair enough.
Yeah, and then Latin for Morons, I learned my lesson I make sure that I use pseudonyms.
Yeah. Change
photos to make sure that I'm not liable. Because family, my family will sue me.
Gosh. That's like was that emotionally hard when that was happening?
Oh yeah, no, it made me like really antagonistic. But I tell all my friends, be careful when you do biographical stuff, because you don't understand the power of what you're writing and how people react to it. They feel like they don't get a chance to say how their point of view, and they're not as forgiving.
Yeah.
So I tell them, be careful. Because lots of writers have written about their personal stories, but they change the whole thing.
Exactly.
They fictionalize it, and then you're fine.
Well, they always say write what you know, don't you? So
That's
this
true.
is what I know.
Yeah.
And are you writing anything at the moment?
Yes, I am. Besides that that lovely book, my play, The Other Americans.
Yes.
I'm touring with it, and it's my first play with a full cast. And I did it at the Public Theater. I did it at the Arena Stage Theater, and it's going great. It's a really powerful piece. I'm trying to add the Latin play as part of the American canon of American tragedies.
Yeah.
So I took a terrible hate crime that happened in 1998 in Long Island, and I reverse engineered it and created the home life of it.
I'm Charlotte Owen, editor-in-chief of Bustle, and you're watching One Nightstand, presented by Gail Daughtry and the Celebrity Sex Pass. We have one of your other books here, the graphic novel for Ghetto Town, and you performed that on Broadway and also at Rikers Island, right?
And in London.
I did
it in London.
Where did you do it in London? In the West End?
Yeah, in the West End.
Very cool.
In a beautiful music hall.
Yeah.
And the Clash came.
Oh, very cool.
And oh my God, there were so many people that came. Now I'm blanking on the names, but yeah, it was great. I had a great time there too. Yeah, I traveled everywhere. This was the most autobiographical piece I wrote, and it was really difficult to have to talk about performance anxiety, all the neuroses that happens with that, and finding it difficult to go back on stage, and dealing with the problematic family, the racism, systemic racism in Hollywood. So I tried to deal with it all.
Yeah. Just some light topics.
Yeah, some fun shit.
What was it like? What was it like performing at Rikers versus? Because
Rikers, I was intense. I was amazing. I was part of this organization called Go So Get Out Stay Out that has incredible 99% success.
It's incredible.
Keeping the kids from coming back, and it's mostly with the teenagers. We're talking about 18, 19, and 20, and there's a high school that Mark Goldsmith raises all the money by himself, so I started helping him raise the funds, doing acting workshops, one-man show workshops with the inmates, and then when I did the show there, it was wild. I was nervous as hell, because I don't know if they're gonna find it funny. Am I gonna bore them? They're used to such a hard life, and they were incredible, man. They laughed really hard. They told me don't incite violence, don't sexualize the situation, don't be vulgar, and of course my play is that's all my plays about. So I was left with no content, so I just did me, and the kids laughed, and no violence, and nothing happened, and then I sat with them and talked to them, and they made me eat the food, which was horrific. It was all gray ham, gray cabbage. It was in a soapy water. It was disgusting.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's an incredible organization, though. That's really special.
Yeah, it's really special. Mark's done it for over 20 years by himself. It's incredible.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I loved reading Long Day's Journey into Night. It gave me,
was that the first time you read it?
Yeah, it's the first time. Wow, I know. I hadn't read it.
Is that
before.
because it's an American playwright, maybe?
I think, unfortunately, we're still rather British focused in the UK. Oh, wow. I know. But it was, I was just so struck by the dialogue is so, and just the way that they, in one monologue, can flip between three different, it really just captures the way your mind works.
Yes, absolutely. Everybody's influenced by Joyce and Ibsen. I think those are the two biggest influences of our modern times in terms of writing, dialogue, and capturing the psychology of family and humanity.
Totally. Well, I thought it was brilliant, and
I think it's one of the greatest plays ever written. It's one of the of all time.
And I loved that when Spicorama came out, a critic in Newsweek compared it
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That oh my God.
It goes,
That hits me right here. Like I get emotional all of a sudden just
it
hearing
says,
that.
not as tragic as O'Neill, but he's funnier, and every laugh he gets is booby-trapped with pain and pathos.
Oh, wow.
About your writing, which I thought was lovely.
Oh my God, that's lovely.
Yeah.
That is lovely. Thank you for reminding me. You forget, you
Yeah.
you move on. I mean, it's been decades now
Yeah.
that I've been in the business, so you forget.
That's amazing.
These were the most important things that I've done in my life, or my plays. Because it's a fabric woven from my pain,
Yeah, totally. Well, I thought next we could talk about the brief, wondrous life of Oscar Wilde.
Wow, Junot Díaz.
Incredible.
Yeah, that book was such a powerful read for me. First of all, because he's legitimizing our street vernacular, Latin vernacular, street culture, which is really important to me because that's where I come from, and I don't find it gets the love and respect it deserves. And the book was just incredible. I mean, first of all, I didn't know enough about Dominican history, Dominican. What happened with Trujillo, who was an autocrat, a dictator, and the killings, and he made it so accessible about this kid just going to college, who wants to get laid. And he's giving you the whole history of the Dominican Republic. It's incredible. I read that before I did Latin History for Morons, and I think subconsciously it definitely influenced me. Letting me know that you can weave history into the fabric of a story.
Yeah, I think also it's got that really powerful sense of how, I think sometimes when you're trying to make art, like you can feel like you need to conform to how other people have made it before.
Right.
Whereas
right,
this really finds its own voice, and it's so powerful as a result.
With the footnotes and the way he's weaving it between this college kid trying to find himself at the same time as he's giving you this intense history woven at the same time. I mean, they're kind of like incongruent in some ways, but that's what makes it so fun and exciting.
Yeah, and the different perspectives. I love the fact that at the start, you're seeing it from one side, and then you start to hear the sister's perspective, and then you realize the way that you'd earlier been described how she was behaving. You're like, oh, it's because all this was going on invisibly in the background, and it gives you that way that all stories are like overlapping.
Yes, it's so beautiful that way. And it just, the Latin culture. I mean, it's Latin culture forward, which, Pulitzer Prize winning. I mean, and it deserves it. It's such a great read.
Yeah.
Obviously I'm influenced by Latin writers. I mean, Miguel Pinheiro was the first to bring real street vernacular to theater. He was the first to do that. I mean, he might have even before David Mamet using vulgarity in theater and plays, and using the F word not sparingly.
Yeah. It's amazing. I also thought it was so interesting on masculinity and the sort of different pressures of masculinity, both at large and then specifically within Dominican culture. Have your views about masculinity evolved as you've got older and stuff?
I hope so.
Yeah.
I really do hope so. I think definitely, especially I don't know. Everybody says you go to Machu Picchu and it can be life changing, and I never really believe any of that stuff. But I went there and I had a life changing moment. I don't know what happened, but to me, for some reason, that moment, I realized that being a man is not fighting all the time or never having to say you're sorry. It is actually. The manlier man can say I'm sorry, can walk away from a fight, can take the higher road. I just that was I don't know why that happened there, but I felt like that was a big flip for me because I grew up on the street, and you always had to throw the first punch. You never could walk away from a fight. You always had to loyalty was a big deal. So that's the way I grew up. And to undo all that, obviously I was trying to do it for my son in Latin History for Morons as well. I didn't want him to continue the cycle of violence with the bullies. I wanted him to use words, and language to defend themselves.
Yeah.
So I was already evolving, hopefully, a different kind of masculinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old were you when you went on the Machu Picchu trip?
Oh my God, my kids were so little, so I must have been 52 or something like that. Yeah.
And did you just go on your own?
No, my kids and my wife.
The whole family?
Yeah, the whole family.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oh, we had an amazing time. The Sacred Valley. We saw this incredible show with white horses at midnight.
Oh, God.
And they were lit as they came towards us. They looked like ghosts. It was the most beautiful thing ever. and then Cusco. I could live there.
Wow.
It's a great city.
Talking of masculinity, are you aware that on Instagram and TikTok there are whole videos of women talking about how Tybalt was like their like sexual awakening to a certain type of masculinity?
Well, what does that say about women? I mean, women need to come to a moment as well.
I know, it's so funny. It's always the scene with the match and with the boots. And,
well, he's a tough guy. He's a macho dude. You know, I was kind of good looking back then. I'm not gonna lie, but but it was that. Come on, it was toxic masculinity that turned the ladies on.
It's so funny because I think, or anyone like my age who grew up watching that kind of film, it is just such a like. You do remember like it because I think with Leo as well. It was a big movie.
Well, there was a porn star that she said that Super Mario Brothers was the big turn on for her.
Interesting.
Well, she's like a gentler man.
Rather than Tybalt.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
That was a big compliment from a porn. I'm not going to say who the porn star is. But
yeah, amazing.
Yeah, she was a big deal.
Tell me about Romeo and Juliet and working on that. What was that experience like?
Wow. I mean, that was my first time with Baz Luhrmann.
Yeah.
And what a brilliant director, writer. I mean, he's also an incredible auteur, like Chris Nolan. I mean, I guess looking back, these 40 years I've been in the industry, I mean, I got to work with some incredibly talented, brilliant people. I mean, we did 2 weeks of rehearsal, workshops. The audition was rough. Oh my God. It was like, it was between me and Benicio del Toro. I wanted to be Mercutio. He wanted me to be Tybalt. And so, it was like hours and hours of screaming, of doing it over. I had no voice, but I hope I get it. Bye, see you tomorrow. I was voiceless by the end of it. And he said I beat Benicio only because I can articulate.
How interesting.
Yeah, because Benicio's a beast, he's a monster actor. And then the 2 weeks of doing Shakespeare workshops.
That must have been incredible.
It was amazing. So we were like all working on it because, these were all actors who are, trained in modern contemporary theater. So none of us, which was, I think, added a lot of flavor.
Totally.
To the language, to the words, and then of course his master script, Baz Luhrmann and Craig Pierce.
I think you guys did such a brilliant job in making the parts of the original text feel so understandable.
Yes,
because I think when I used to
read, so
relatable, and like when I used to read Shakespeare at school, and they'd go around the class and everyone would have to read a bit, and none of us just knew when to take a breath at the right point, and so it makes it chaotic. Whereas I mean, it was just so brilliantly done. Like you understood even if you didn't know why. Like
I thought Leo, I think it was one of his best performances. Yeah. It was such a powerful performance, and the kid was 19.
Yeah,
he was so present and such a friendly guy. We had such a great time together. The whole cast we were all spending all the time together, which was great, even though we were supposed to be antagonistic towards each other. But even when he's off camera, he was giving as much as he gave in front of the camera.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I know, because there's some actors who I've worked with who walk away, and they're off camera, and then they walk away for your off camera, and you're left with somebody who's like reading it like this, and you have to try, and you're like, okay, that was great, thanks a lot, buddy.
Yeah. What was the vibe like on the Odyssey? Was it similarly collegiate? And
yes,
really,
I mean, there's no diva system, there's no, you don't have your phone, you're not allowed to have your phone, so you have to talk to people and make friendships.
That's so interesting.
It's great because you got to know people for real. Otherwise, everybody runs to their phone immediately, and you're stuck on the phone and you never talk to anybody. Everybody was in it together. It was a very difficult shoot, I mean, the locations were all intense. They were all super intense. I mean, where I shot, we were in a 900-foot cliff. I tried to climb it the first few days, but I couldn't do it anymore. Then I chose the helicopter because you're like worn out.
Yeah.
By the time you get to the top, 50-minute climb to the top of this cliff. And then you're exhausted, and then you have to act on top of it all day for 12 hours. No. Plus, I had, my contacts I couldn't see through them. So, people had to guide me through the whole thing. And it's funny because we're on top of this cliff, right? Everything is poisonous on this cliff, which is bizarre. Yeah. And the sap of the poisonous plant can make you go blind. So I was like, no thanks, I can't see. And and there's in the cliff where you can fall. I mean, he had great stunt coordinators everywhere. Everything was protected. We were all told constantly what not to touch. But we did this great scene. We rap. They yell lunch. Everybody leaves, and I'm like, "Hello, hello, hey, I'm hungry. I want to eat too." And they had forgotten about me. Somebody had to run back and come and get me, and guide me back to the cafeteria.
Oh God, what an experience!
Yeah, it was because they forgot that I couldn't see.
Yeah. Did you guys like play games or anything to entertain when you're on set with no phones, or you just chit chatting?
You're chit chatting.
Yeah, fair enough.
Or you're preparing.
Yeah. You know. Did you and Benicia ever talk about going up for the Tybalt role against
each other? It's not a really great thing to
do you never talk about? Yeah.
You go, hey, I beat you on that. And then Carlito's Way was the same thing.
Oh, really?
I turned that down because I didn't want to play another Latin drug deal. I just did not want to do another one of those. And then they said, we're going to give it to Benicia. Okay, I'll take it.
Amazing.
And I took Carlito's Way, which was a pivotal point in my life, working with Brian De Palma the second time. He told me what film acting was about. I mean, the luxury he gave me. And I've been talking to him recently, He lives in the Hamptons, and we've had dinners together, and I try to pay him as many compliments.
Yeah.
And pay it back. He really, when I did my entrance scene as Benny Blanco, he let me do it like 30 times. Really? This was 35 millimeter film. Nobody did that back then. I was used to doing independent film where you had to beg for every take.
Yeah.
Because you only had so much. So I did all kinds of crazy things. Wow. Knock down trays, threw champagne on somebody, push somebody, dance with some girl, and he was laughing and enjoying it. I learned that there are infinite possibilities in film. There's not just one, because you always thought as an actor, there's only one.
I need to get it right.
Intention. There's only one right move. There isn't. There's like thousands and thousands, and they can all be different. And because Dustin Hoffman talks about that, like give as many a variety of takes, and then other actors want to control the performance by not giving a variety of takes because they'll pick the one that you don't want.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
Yeah, there's so many different approaches to it.
How is it different when you do voice work, like say with Encanto or with Sid the Sloth or whatever?
Oh, I love it because I'm a little OCD, and there I can do the line like a million times. There's no other actors, no other body's ego. I don't have to compete with anybody or anything. I can just do it over and over till it's perfect, and I enjoy that a lot. And for Encanto, we just improvised a lot to try to get that neuroses, this neurotic, beautiful, vulnerable Sigma male, another type of masculinity, which is much softer, not alpha, Yeah. And it's okay, and it's great. So that I was really happy about that. Also because it's a Latin story.
Yeah.
And putting a different type of Latin masculinity in the forefront.
Totally. And I feel like that song was just everywhere.
Oh my God, we don't talk about Bruno. I want the sequel to be we only talk about Bruno. Let's hope that happens.
Yeah. It's amazing. Is it lonely though, shooting when you're doing the audio and you're just on your own?
No, I don't find. I think it is for actors who are not used to doing one-man shows.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it's like I love it. Yeah. And then I work with Jared Bush, the director, who was a brilliant man, and we just came up with some funny beats. It was a blast. I had so much fun. And then Lynn wrote these amazing songs. He gave me a rap that took so long to get because I'm not a singer.
Yeah.
I mean, Baz knows that. I sang the opening track of Moulin Rouge, and that took like 8 months to get
nailed. Oh, that's so fun though. I mean, those movies are all so incredible. You really do have the best sort of like
I had a pretty good career.
I mean, but it's just like all these like cult projects that people love.
I got lucky. I mean, Baz Luhrmann, Tony Scott, I worked with him twice.
Yeah.
I worked with his brother, Ridley Scott,
Yeah.
Ava DuVernay, Spike Lee twice.
It's
It was incredible.
And even like Tu Wong Fu and like those types that are always like popping up on my TikTok.
I love Tu Wong Fu. I mean, it was such a brave movie. I know everybody. Priscilla, Queen of the Desert stole our thunder because it came out it beat us just before.
Yeah.
Because we had to wait for Wesley. We were trying to beat them.
Yeah.
Because there was only room back then for one drag queen movie per year, So we didn't get the accolades that we deserved. I feel, because I think Patrick did an amazing job, and Wesley and I crushed it too. And we took it seriously. You know,
Yeah.
we really wanted to give these characters integrity, and we had drag queen coaches. You know, I had Larissa Dumas. She was from the Bronx, and she was trying to help me do my accent correctly, and she taught me how to do it all right. And I loved her, and I borrowed as much from her as I could.
I love it. That's so incredible. And
LGBTQ plus teenagers came up to me a lot after the movie came out and said that movie gave them the courage to come out to their family.
That's amazing.
Oh, that was like that's what you hope your work does. That gives people a sense that they're seen, that they're important, that their lives matter. You know, that's what you hope that you do with your work. That's why you have to be careful with what you select, and you know, the kind of imagery you put out, because it can be used against you. Like, you know, the problem with Hollywood for a long time was the negative portrayal of Latin people.
Totally. And
it fed into an administration that wanted to villainize us and demonize us, and it played it perfectly into it.
Yeah, and so singular in the types of roles available.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're 20% of the U.S. population, but we're 30% of the U.S. box office, and we were 37 or 40% for Scary Movie, 30 or 40% for Scream, for Bad Boys. I mean, that's huge. Almost 50%. And then with less than 6% of the roles, leading roles, and less than 1% of the executives. It's even less than that.
Yeah.
And in theater is the same thing too. I mean, there's only one Latin show in New York City, and we're half the population of this city.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's problems with the gatekeeping. They're definitely still.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't get me started, because I won't stop.
I did laugh. I was watching an interview from a while ago talking about Romeo and Juliet, and you said we're playing, like, you know, we're filming in Mexico, and it's all you know, but all of our parents are being played by Italians, because that's what Hollywood does, which I thought was funny.
Well, it was interesting because it was Italians, and then, you know, Italians got mad when they couldn't play Latin people, but I mean, I'm sorry, you can't take our roles.
No, exactly.
And I love Italians, but they had so many roles. You don't have to take our roles.
No, exactly.
I mean, because Pacino's played Cuban in Scarface, Puerto Rican in Carlito's Way. John Turturro played Puerto Rican in The Big Lebowski. Yeah, thank you. And Marissa Tomei played Italian. And
well, finally, we're going to talk about James Joyce.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So tell me about when you first read Joyce and what you love about.
I read James Joyce. Obviously, I read Portrait of a Young Man as an Artist. I read that as a young man, you know, in high school. And it was, I think that might have helped me decide what I wanted to be. But then later in life, when I started reading Ulysses and reading his biography, which is I think his biography is one of the greatest biographies ever written. It's like 1,000 pages, and it goes into every year of his life, every choice. It's the most studied author in the history of the world, because I don't know how they got all this information of what high school he was in, what grades he got.
Wow.
How his father was drinking and spending all the money, and they took all of his older brother's all the financing from his brother to put it all in James. James was the golden-haired child that they thought, this was we're going to put all the money in this horse. This is the horse is going to take us to the next level. So they put it all on him, and he was supposed to save the family, and he did. I mean, he became the greatest writer in the history of Western literature. Because I feel like Ulysses is not only a masterpiece, but it's a work of art. It's modern art in literature, and captures the way we like you were talking before about Long Day's Journey to Night, and how that captures the way we think and speak. But this is even more so, because it is the subconscious, it is the unconscious, it is your inner monologue, and then what you choose to say. And then he plays with all the forms, because when he's talking about a romantic thing, he goes into a romance novel, and then he goes into an ad format, and into a play format. And I mean, it's the Odyssey.
Yes, totally.
Here we go back to the Odyssey. He took the Odyssey, and Ulysses is the Roman name for Odysseus.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he spent most of his life living outside Ireland, and then spent so much time writing it, and which I think is very, I mean, obviously I don't live in the country I was born anymore, and it is a weird thing. Like, you sort of always think of it, but
But he was very purposeful about everything he did, which is so incredible to have that kind of insight at that age.
Yeah.
We're talking about 18, 19, in his early 20s when he was writing his masterpieces.
Yeah.
And he didn't want to go to London.
Yeah.
Because that's where all the writers were going, and he felt like they were all being influenced by the same ideas, the same theories, the same philosophies. So he extracted himself.
Yeah.
So he could have a different opinion and a different view of the world, and he did, and it's crazy. His life is insane because he couldn't pay his bills. He wouldn't marry the woman that he had knocked up and he had 2 kids with. He was spending all the money on himself. He was an alcoholic at such a young man, such a young age. And then he had to call his brother to come and help finance his life. And his brother lived with them, and his brother would get mad at him because the wife, Nora, said, you got to stop him from going to drinking. So he started beating James up every time he went drink. It was so dysfunctional, so twisted. And yet at the same time, he was so creative and so prolific, and he knew exactly what he was going after to change the way literature was being written.
Yeah, it's extraordinary. All of his books are so
because he's inventing language. He's making it up. It's incredible.
Yeah, I wonder because I think one of the threads that I thought through the books you've recommended is there's a sort of a kind of deep, unapologetic realism that's like not particularly idealistic in the sense of how it's portrayed, and then your character in the Odyssey with the sort of like being this sort of moral beating sort of heart of the film. Did you struggle with that at all from the point of view of like making it, because all of these are about the sort of nuances and difficulties that come with being human. How did you make that character feel as sort of multi-dimensional as that?
That was interesting. I obviously had to spend some time with Matt and Tom Holland because I'm a method actor, and I don't believe you can fake relationships. You have to have had some relating. So I'd spend as much time I could with Tom and with Matt, and they were really welcome to it. And that helped really create a relationship and a friendship. I played padel with Tom. He taught me this new game that the Mexican guy invented that's all the rage right now. So I played that with him. That was so fun. So the first layer. Then it's taking care of the dog. So I'm a big pet person, so I take care of Argus. And Argus is the most loyal creature in the world because he's waiting for his master. He's trying to stay alive to see his master. Oh, it's so beautiful. So I took care of this Portuguese, I call it Portuguese pendejo. That's Spanish for idiot, but that's not the real name of the dog. It's like pendengo. Oh. But to me, it's hilarious, Portuguese pendejo. And they're not the friendliest dog in the world. So I was trying to like constantly petting it, and he didn't really like me. but I would try to make it act like it liked me on film. And then the emotion that I had to deliver, I didn't know how I was going to access all that emotion when I see and hear him for the first time. That Matt as Odysseus comes home, and I know it's him, but I can't really verify it, and I choose not to believe that it's him because it's too emotional for me. Because I love him as a son, that's really the real relationship. It's sort of like a foster father, a surrogate father to him, and but the emotions came, and Matt and Chris knew that I'm a method guy, so I needed to go into my space and talk to myself and hit myself, whatever it is that I need to do to get myself emotionally at that point. But the waterworks came and the pain came, and it was a powerful moment.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How did you and Matt bond? Did you like do anything?
Talk. We spent all the time talking because we weren't on the phone. So so we linked up and we had like long days. So we got to spend a lot of time there together.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And now you're on the big press tour, so you'll be spending more time.
Yeah, we did all the Latin press in Miami. We went to the World Cup.
Oh my God,
Colombia won.
Very exciting. Who
So
are you supporting?
Colombia.
Yeah, great.
And then, every Latin country after that.
Yeah, exactly.
As they get out, and then, Brazil, and then Argentina, and then if we lose that, then maybe Spain, and then Congo, and then Cape Verde.
We've got Congo on Wednesday. The England. We're playing Congo. That's our next knockout game.
Yeah, the knockout games begin. Yeah, yeah.
Who have Colombia got?
We got Ghana.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we only drew against Ghana. They're very defensive.
I know.
They're very organized. Yeah. I love watching the World Cup. I love it so much.
I didn't grow up with the World Cup, but
Yeah.
my son was a soccer player, captain of his team. So
You
I'm
got
all
into
in
it.
now. I'm all in. Yeah.
It's
We're gonna go
amazing.
see France versus Norway. I think it is on Tuesday. We're going to MetLife over here.
Amazing.
So thrilled about it.
Oh, that'll be so. And you're a Knicks fan, right? So
Yeah,
you get
big
into
Knicks
all
fan.
of
What
that.
a year! Imagine if Colombia wins, the dark horse, and the Knicks. I think my life's, there's
Life
no more
done.
bucket. Yeah,
You're in a
bucket lists
Christopher
are
Nolan
done.
movie.
Oh my God! Yeah, my life is. Yeah, I'm just gonna retire to an island.
Nailed
somewhere.
it.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Take some great books and you're set.
Yeah, please.
Well, thank you so much. This was so fun.
Oh, it was a blast.
I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it. And
You're great.
Thank you for such great book recommendations. I really enjoyed them.
I'm glad you read. I can't believe you hadn't read Long Day's Journey
I know,
tonight.
I
But it's
know.
life changing, isn't it? Don't you
really
feel
is.
like it?
It really is. And I think it's so, when you think about when you read the description and you're like, this
Yeah.
is just over one day and nothing really happens in the day,
right.
but everything happens.
Everything happens.
And I
It's
just
an
think that's so
intense-filled day.
sophisticated to make you realize that and feel that.
Yeah.
And the relationship between the brothers, like that bit at the end where like Edmund, is that his name?
Edmund, yeah.
And he's talking to Jamie and he's like, Jamie's like, I hate you, but I
Oh,
will
God,
root for you.
that
Oh my
speech.
gosh.
I mean, when Philip Seymour Hoffman did it, R.I.P., one of the great American actors, did it on Broadway with Vanessa Redgrave and Brian Dennehy, he got a standing ovation when he did that speech. I've never seen that ever happen in the history of that play. But I think that play was difficult for Philip. I think he beat himself up to get into that place. He's very methody that way, and I think that was a tough piece for him.
I'm sure.
Pushed him over the edge in a way, but it was riveting to watch. Riveting.
Yeah.
I mean, without Long Day's Journey Tonight, there is no Death of a Salesman.
No.
There's. I mean, that play was informative to all the other pieces of great theater, because he broke so many rules. It was so brave. It was so naked, so raw. No one's ever been that raw and naked. Yeah.
I agree. It's extraordinary. I also was struck when I was reading about the different productions of it. The one with Charles Dance in the UK had Olivia Colman playing the Kathleen, the servant girl.
Oh, the servant girl.
Yeah, because she was not as big an actor at that time.
Oh
and I was like,
my
because I was
God.
looking through the cast and then it got to the bottom and it was like, Olivia Colman.
She'd be an
but
incredible Mary.
She really would.
She would
Yeah,
crush.
I know.
Yeah.
But anyway, there we go. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It
This
was
was
a
great.
blast. Yeah, I enjoyed it so much.
Great.
Thank you.
Brilliant.
Much
Thank
love.
you all.